And like for a second, I'm like,
God.
oh my God, like nobody's helping me. I'm gonna die. And I was a child. And the next thing I know, like this arm like comes and like pulls me out. And it's my grandma. And she's just like looking at me like all silly. She's like, what are you doing? Don't play around like that. Come on, let's go
You
eat.
almost
I'm like,
died.
Grandma, I almost died. What are you saying? No, I'm not playing around. This is for fun.
Dude, I swear that guy was probably like, what are you guys doing? It's literally like 2 feet of water. But like, we were almost
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, because we're like, oh my God, thank you so much. And he was like, tengan cuidado porque hacen remolinos abajo del agua. And like,
And then
well,
they
now we
say-
know.
And they
Now
say
we know.
like if you weren't even in the danger of like the worst to come. But like I don't know if that's a kid thing where like we're always feel awkward about everything. Like, sorry, I almost died. Didn't mean to embarrass myself. Like, was that a thing? Because it was a thing for me.
I don't know.
Everything you do, like that could be like life threatening or so it seemed. It's like it was always embarrassing. Like, sorry, you guys caught me slipping, literally. Hi, my name is Luna.
Hi, I'm Polly.
And this is The Other Side. Hey guys, this week is the new episode on Mental Notes, and we're going to be talking about what it feels like to lose yourself in these trying times and just how hard it is to kind of get a hold of yourself whenever things feel like they're kind of going off the end.
In these trying times and just in general, I think because I don't know if, what do you mean by trying times? Like COVID or just
Everything,
Okay.
even before COVID, this world
Yeah.
was imperfect.
because I think my experience with the way I explained this topic to Luna is like feeling a stranger to myself, because I've been dealing with this, I don't know how to call it, but I remember my old self, you could say, like seeing myself in pictures from like even 2 years ago, even a year ago. It feels like I'm looking at somebody else. It doesn't seem like it's me. And it happens, like I said, when I look at myself in pictures, when people talk about me, like in past tense, or it just feels like it's a different person. And I don't know where the feeling comes from or like why this happened, but there is a point where like I can pinpoint like where my life was at when it happened. And I think you could like, because people that don't know me before this podcast, I changed my hair quite a lot. My natural hair is black-ish, kind of like Luna's, but I'm blonde right now. I'm super blonde, but I haven't had my natural hair in years. And also, I think people might confuse this as like, well, of course you don't look like yourself a few years ago because you've grown, or like because like I said, because you've changed your hair and you look at pictures and it's like, oh, you look so different. But it's not the fact that I look different. It's the fact that I feel so different. And it's also not to be confused with like, of course you feel different because you've grown, because you've matured, because you've gone through different experiences. But it's literally like I'm looking at, or like it's a different person. Like if I was looking at a picture of you and I don't recognize who that person is, I cannot. I remember what it felt like being that person, but it feels so strange to who I am now. And to a point where I'm like even kind of scared of like, what is this in my head that
What you're becoming?
Not what I'm becoming, but like it's so, the feeling is very strange. I'm like, do other people experience this? Do other people feel this way? But like I said, to a point where I'm like even scared to even be thinking like, I don't know if it's normal.
Well, for me, it's like really melancholic whenever I think of like when I was really happy, or at least something that happened before a traumatic experience. And whenever like life would get really hard, like for some reason I would always like kind of like wrap that point in my life like beforehand and just feel like this is where it was great. This is like where it was before everything went wrong. Mm-hmm. And like for me, for that, like I used to always think of like my life 3 years ago when I was 20 and I was traveling and studying and more or less happy. It was pre-anxiety for me. And that's whenever I think of like, it just makes me completely sad and I feel empty. Like almost like I've just changed and I won't accept that. Like I don't want to let go of who that person was.
Yes.
Even though I am more evolved than that individual, I'm wiser than that person and more responsible. It just still like isn't something that I'm ready to let go. But I think that's something a lot of people deal with whenever, you know how they say like, oh, you're washed up or like you're remembering the good old days too much. People live in the past. Like I think that those are all different forms of what this is that we're talking about.
That's exactly how because, well, me looking at myself, even like I said, 2 years, a year, even a year ago, it's like I miss that person so much. And I wish that I could go back to that moment and experience life to its fullest. Because, and like you said, it also makes me sad because it's like, even a year ago, I was like, and I see a picture of myself, I'm like, dude, like, why were you so sad? But I'm still so sad. So is that gonna happen to me in a year from now and still looking at pictures of like right now? I'm always scared that I'm not living my life to the fullest. That's another thing. But like I look at my pre-anxiety for me, I think that was maybe when I was like 19-ish, 20. I was still in college. I was studying abroad too. And I look at myself, or like I look at pictures of me when I was like living abroad, and I'm like, at that point, it felt like anything was possible. Like I could do anything I wanted to do, or like
Absolutely.
My life was ahead of me, and that's the thing. People always tell me, you're so young, your life is ahead of you. But I do really feel old. And I do really feel like it's not, if it hasn't happened for me, it's not going to happen.
I think the problem is that like we feel wear down. Like it's not so much like old in a sense of like exhausted, but it's just we feel like too much has happened since we didn't feel that way. Because like I think to me like your youth is whenever you feel hopeful and whenever you have this energy to just keep going, and we're getting to that point where we're just kind of tired, and it feels like because we're like beaten down by so many different like obstacles, especially now in these trying times. And that's why I always keep remembering what it was like when I was 20, because it was like I had just gotten myself out of like something that felt so like just murky and unpredictable, and it only lasted for a second, and then I felt like my life just went downhill again. And I think that's why I keep wanting to like relive that moment. It's not that like I try to like get to that point again, but I spend way too much time thinking about it. And it's like, why do you think or like, you know, why do you think that a lot of people feel this way? Like, why are we always looking at the past? Like the reason why we look at the past is because we're making the same mistake now about not appreciating the now. Because in 2-3 years, we're going to probably be looking to now. What I'm saying. And like, it's not so much like I miss, you know, being broke. I miss, you know, having a shitty job or this and that. It's just missing who you were, because it's not like life was super easy at that point for me, at least.
That's what I was going to tell you. Like,
but I still miss it.
Did you, because I'm like, shit happens like all the time, right? Yeah. But at that point, were you also struggling with something? Like, what was the turning point where you, or is it not like that for you?
It was actually. The turning point was when I was walking out of the global engagement office at my university, which is the department that conducts like the study abroad things. I've never been somebody, like, let's just make this clear, because I don't think most people know me. It's like, I've never been somebody who's adventurous. I am very open-minded, but like, I'm not adventurous to go out and like do these crazy things and to proclaim like, okay, like I'm going to do that. Let's do it. But like I had been struggling the past 2 years, it was like my sophomore year in college. And up until that point, it was very lonely and it was just very boring and just not fulfilling. Like, I didn't have any friends. I had just joined like my major like club, the anthropology club, but like I didn't really like connect with many people there. And like I felt like this was a time that I needed to go and do something, like something different, something crazy, like. And then I just kept thinking, I'm in fucking college, like I need to do something, because I'm not doing the partying, I'm not doing like the clubbing or anything like that. Like, I gotta do something. And I thought how wonderful it would be to go to the other side of the world and like actually do what I wanted to do, which something I enjoy a lot is studying food and culture and people. And there were art history courses, which wasn't what I was studying. But, you know, like, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if it's not going to go towards my degree. Like, I am doing this for me. And I remember going down the stairs and then walking out. And I feel like I could just, I don't know, like, it was just hope. Like, it felt like a breath of fresh air. Like, it was awesome. And I remember it. It was serene and it was beautiful. And it just lasted up until I got to, you know, the study abroad. And then I had, you know, issues there, just dealing with, you know, people in my life and things like that. Issues that I didn't want to yet, like, confront. Because I feel like I did that trip in a way to sort of just kind of push everything out of the way because I needed a break. But I felt like me being immature as I was, like, I just didn't want to handle things. And I still didn't, because even after that, I spent 2 months, like, on the road, like, with my mom at the time, and I still didn't come back home. And I took a break from school, and I lived in California with my mom in a camper. So it was, but like that whole
That happened in the last years?
That happened in 2017. I took off to Peru in May 15, 2017, and then it ended like towards the end of May, and then I just didn't go back home. I missed my flight in Lima, actually, and so my mom paid for me to come into the States, like, through Fort Lauderdale in Florida. So, like, from there, like, at the time, my mom's husband, like, so he's a truck driver, and so, like, I just hitched a ride with them, and we just went all the way back to California. So I went cross country, and then she just invited me to, like, just do it all over again. So I took another trip, and I ended up visiting like 20 states around that time. So it wasn't just being in Peru, but it was like seeing the world in general, like the world of the US that I don't even know.
Sounds really fucking cool.
It was awesome. I collected a magnet in every state that I visited, and I tried to eat food that I thought was, you know, worthy of the staple food of the state, and just stuff like that. But yeah, like but it started that moment I came down, like, from the building, walking outside. I don't know what else you asked, but I feel like I went off on a tangent. But yes, I can't let that moment go. Just feeling like I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. Like,
it's so cool.
Because people were upset with me, close people, and I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to do this for myself. And it's been a minute since I felt that freedom.
I remember I was studying abroad. This was not the point where I like... It was not, like I said, the turning point, but this is something that I remember with fondness. I was studying abroad in Mexico City. I was doing my internship. I was going to school there. Mexico City for me is like my second home. Or I like to call it my second home because I've been so many times. I know how to get around the place. I have family over there. I have a lot of friends there. I just love the place. And I decided to go study abroad there because I was like, okay, I actually want to take this opportunity of studying abroad so I can create connections and actually eventually move here and have a job and, like, I don't know, right? That was my idea. Which it's still my idea. Like, I still want to do it, but right, like, at the moment it felt so easy. Like, oh, I can just pack up my things and go. Like, why not? Fuck it. But now that I'm like at this age, I'm like, well, I have to think about this, and this, and this. And I think that's what I miss the most, like that sense of adventure and
not having ties.
Or not feeling scared, and I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I was at the time studying abroad. And I rented this place that was literally next to the university, but it had a rooftop. It was like 5 stories high. It was pretty high. And you could see part of the skyline of the city when you climbed all the way over there. And I would go, not every night, but I would go a lot because I felt really lonely. And that's also one of the things that I, like, yes, there were moments when I was already there living my dream, you could say. But there were moments that I regretted it because either I felt lonely, I felt alone, I felt like I was too far away from my home. Like if something happened, like if I was robbed, or like if I didn't have a ride, or there was nobody that I could call or like fall back on. I didn't have that structured. I just didn't have that backup, like my family or anything. Yeah. But still, like looking back at those moments, I'm like, I wish I was there right now. Anyway, I was there at the rooftop looking at the ceiling, and I felt so invincible. I felt like I could literally do anything because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm doing all these things. Like literally nothing is impossible. I can do anything. And then my time over there was over, and then I came back to reality. And I remember even when because I went to school upstate, and every time I would drive back home, not that I don't like coming back home, of course I like it here because my family is here, but I would cry my eyes out because I just didn't want to come back. Coming back, it just feels like I'm never getting out of here. Yeah. Like my life is over.
Did you feel like when you came back from Mexico City, like did you feel like just a new person? Like completely changed? Like did you keep that mentality of like anything is possible? Like after what you had just experienced?
I did because I met a lot of people that I thought were and maybe I lost all the context. It was so long ago. But maybe at the time, if my fear wouldn't have taken over, maybe, I don't know where I would, because I don't like to think like the should have, would have, you know? Yeah. Because it's like, it's in the past already. Like if I didn't do anything, it was because it wasn't my destiny or it was not in my path to do it. But when I came back, I still thought that I could continue what I had already started. Because like I said, my plan was to move there, find people that could help me get to where I wanted to be at, and eventually move back. And when I came back, I felt like I had accomplished that. But then I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Very similar.
The thing is, I came back and I graduated right away from college. I graduated a year early, not by choice. I graduated early because I had a lot of credits and my financial aid wasn't going to be covered anymore.
I feel like that was kind of not like robbed from us. Dude,
No, we were robbed the college experience.
Yes, let's say it, honestly, because that's how it felt. I took 3 years, the thing is, but it could have just taken 2. But I would have very much liked to have had the 4-year experience. And maybe even longer. And like,
not to say that I'm not thankful, because of course I am, and it's money that maybe I wouldn't have had to finish college. Resources. But I would have wanted to do the 4 years because I feel like I graduated too early and I just wasn't ready for the real world. Right away, I didn't have a plan. Right after college, I didn't have a set plan. I remember I applied for jobs, but it wasn't really what I wanted. So like, honestly, I wasn't making an effort because the thing is, I wasn't ready to go back to Mexico City because there was paperwork that I needed to do. There were, like, if I wanted to do things right, there was a lot of like documenting that I needed to do. And maybe I could have done it, but dude, I was 20.
That's another thing. Like, yeah, same for me.
I know I'm not a teenager anymore, but I'm also not an adult. And I'm like, what the fuck do I know about life? Like, and the thing is, I've always been very independent of like, okay, I want to do things by my own accord. And I couldn't do it because I didn't know how to. And like, Google only takes me so far. And I just didn't have a sense of like what how to do things, and maybe I still don't, and now I'm like, maybe I do now, I'm sorry, but like I'm scared now. I'm scared that I'm gonna fail.
Or now it kind of feels like
also,
it's too late, like to keep chasing that idea that we left behind. And I felt the same way too. Like I remember coming back after that like whole thing and just saying like, I'm coming back here and I'm gonna do this my way. I'm not gonna come with the school. Like I'm going to live here. And it might just be for a month or a little less than that or something, but like I totally can. And my mom's husband like has two sons, and like I had met them in Lima when I had missed my flight because I had to stay for like 2 nights, and like they were so nice, and it's like, you know what, I can do this, like I can totally like see maybe if my future is here. And I can't believe that like I thought that. And seeing the person that I am now, like I'm just very pessimistic, and I can't believe like that, just that sense of like optimism I feel like is gone. And I think that's sad because, you know, I shouldn't hold myself down. Like, we're not supposed to tell ourselves things like you can't do it because you're just holding yourself back. But realistically, I feel like I do. But because we have ties, we have responsibilities, we have commitments now that we can't just, you know, just break off so easily.
Yep.
And it feels weird now to think like, would I still go back? Like, would I save my money to do that? But like, I already started my career here, and I have plans about going back to school, and like it's just all these different things. Like it just feels, but it does feel like kind of like a regret. Like, why didn't I do it at the time when I was still going to school? Because I still went to school for about like a year and a half after that. But everything just got real fast. My anxiety just started after that. You know, like, fun fact, the first time I ever got on a plane was for that trip. And I flew solo across the Pacific. And I can't believe I did that alone. My first flight was in Reynosa to Mexico City. And I still remember the first time. I had been to Reynosa before. But the first time I stepped foot
Mexico City
and looked at the mountains, I was like, oh my God, like
a
I'm
world outside
this.
of
Like
exists.
like I have never been this far away from home before. Like I had never even left Texas at the time, and I had just been there on the border in Mexico. So I'm like, holy fuck, this is insane. There's so many people here, like so many people. And then I get on that flight, and then I land in Lima. And I'm just like, okay, this is weird. Like, I know it's not like Asia or something, but it's technically Asia because it's on the other side of the world. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, because it's Latin America, it's not too foreign, but it's just knowing that these people live in an entirely different world than anything I'm familiar with. And so when I got to Cusco there, like in the Sacred Valley of Peru, like I saw all kinds of people. I saw like British people and French people, and I think like Danish people, and, you know, Indian people, everybody. I'm just like, holy crap, like we are so insignificant. But that was in a way, it was like reassuring. Like it made me feel better to not think so crazy about, like, you know, just not to get so overwhelmed with my life. It humbled me a little bit to know that like we're all doing this. We're all living on this planet, and we're all just trying to see the wonder of the world, you know, and everything. So I think it's nice to step back and like reassess things. So that's why I regret it. It's like, it was nice.
In the past mental note, we talked about how some experiences have contributed to maybe our trauma and like have caused our anxiety and things like that. Do you think that this is a factor in that? Or like, because it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, I'm gonna speak for myself. I started experiencing this episode of anxiety when I came back. When I graduated, when I came back home, my experience with Mexico City had already passed. So it's like, I don't know if I felt like, or started having those anxiety attacks because of the fact that I was here and I was not fulfilling my dream.
You know what? Maybe. It's very interesting you say that, because my anxiety started exactly a year after. It started in the summer of 18. And it was just strange for me, because I couldn't believe that I was afraid to even walk into a movie theater just out of the fear of being around other people. And I'm the same person who got on an airplane by themselves like 5 times with all these different people. Dude, you know what? The craziest thing for me, actually, like when you said that you're in Mexico City and you're making connections, like that was for you. Like for me, it was when I was in the middle of a snowstorm on the top of the Andes mountain, like a snowstorm that wasn't even predicted. We were doing a 4-day hike, remote hiking, like straight up no water, like no like running water, no communication with people, just whoever you were hiking with. No showering. And it was the best moment of my life, honestly. It was fucking cold. It was freezing. I had bought hiking gear, but I wasn't like equipped for like
for snow.
The snow. And I remember like the warmest thing I had was like some warm-ups. There were like some long johns and like some, kind of like pajama type things. And I wore those under like my hiking stuff. And I just remember at some point, like we were all so tired after we like came to the top. We were like at the peak, and now we were like starting to descend, and everybody was kind of just going at their own pace, because like we have like these checkpoints where we would like meet, and there's these houses already built because like it's a trail that's already known. Not that many people take it. Like we didn't even run into anybody, because it's not something tourists do. Like it's something people who are adventurers do, like not that I'm an adventurer, but I feel like, if you're doing this, you got to be serious about doing this. You got to be with somebody who's experienced and know what you're getting into. And so like we hiked the 4 days and 3 nights to Machu Picchu, and I just remember at that point I was not even afraid to die. Like I was alone at some point, because I had like 2 hiking buddies, and they had just like, I don't know, at some point we just kind of like got separated, and people were just going at their own pace, and I just didn't want to stop, and I just kept going. I think I was one of the last ones, actually. But like I felt so reassured. And you know what? In that moment, I thought nothing in the world exists except this moment. Like not social media, not, my ex-boyfriend, not my parents who were probably mad at me, not school because I am not doing so well in it. Nothing, dude, nothing. And I felt so happy.
It's one of those moments where you think back of like, why was I so worried about this fucking exam that literally means nothing right now? Like that grade, that class, that fight that I cried my eyes out, it doesn't matter right now.
We like build ourselves up so much out of the expectations of what people like assume we should be. But it's not until like you get to that moment where you're doing literally something so crazy, and it's almost like numbing, but not like in a negative way. It's just, you're just in the moment. Like you're vibing, like straight up. You're vibing. And it took me to purge from the internet like 3 days that led up to that moment, that I was just walking. My boots were just filled with mud, and like my face had literal like snow on it and icicles. And I was like, I don't give a fuck if I'm so uncomfortable. I'd rather be here right now, because I felt so much peace. And I'm the same person who couldn't even walk into like a movie theater just because, people. Or like, I don't even want to get in my car because what if I faint and like I lose control of the wheel?
That happened
like
after, right? After the trip.
A year after.
Do you think that if you were to go back or to relive that experience right now, would you be able to do it by yourself? Like get on a plane, if you knew what you were going to do over there? Because you've already experienced this before. But like, let's say that the opportunity arose for you to go back and relive those experiences. Would you go right now, knowing what you know now about life and like dealing with your current problems?
I feel like fear wears the mask of failure, and that is my true enemy. Like, I am just so afraid that it's not going to be the same, that it's not going to be as perfect as it was. And if I were to go back, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. Not in the place, not in the people, not in the moment, but of myself. Like, I feel like, what if I get ready to like go on a hike and then I just decide no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, my heart just starts racing. I can't even, like, breathe. That's a whole other thing. Like, you're at a super high altitude. Like, you're in one of the highest parts of, like, the world. So, like, getting accustomed to even breathing there was its own challenge. And me having my anxiety, like, obviously breathing is an issue sometimes. And it's like, but you see, I'm already setting myself up with all these, like, I'm going to fail. It's not going to be good. And
Yeah.
because I still want to travel. I still want to go to Colorado and I still want to do all these different things. And something still holds me back, though. I'm like, I don't know if I'm normal enough to do those things. I don't know if I'm stable enough, if I'm happy enough. And I just end up hating myself for it. But again, like, you know, what this episode's about, it's just like not recognizing yourself. And to me, that is that is the most exhausting thing about, for me, with my mental illness, is like having anxiety. It's just not being able to be who I used to be. I wish I can just like strip away all these just, you know, problems of myself. It's like, I'm done. I'm over it. I want to move on. But it doesn't work that way. No. And that's the hardest part about it all.
For me, my experience wasn't that adventurous, like, but I think that if the opportunity arose to go back, I would take it. The thing I'm most afraid of right now is all my responsibilities and the life that I've already built here. I think that would be my biggest, I don't want to say fear, but the thing that my anger, what's holding me back from like going back and actually like continuing or like fulfilling my dream, because I feel like I could, like, it's not to airplane, like it's on one trip away. It's not far on the airplane. It's not expensive to live there. But the thing is, I'm like, but I already have a job here. My family lives here.
It could change your life.
My whole life is here. All my friends are here. Like, why would I do that to myself and literally start from scratch? But then again, like, that's like really deep down in my core, I know that that's what I want.
Yeah. But
I'm just so comfortable here. Yeah. And I started creating the life I wanted over there, here. Which you could say it's ideal, like, but it's not the same thing because I'm here. And that's one of the reasons why I started this podcasting in general and doing the things I do, like with my, just, I really don't like saying my art because I feel like that's super pretentious.
No, but it is right. It's
I know, but like I don't like saying it. But okay. Shit, that's fine. Sorry.
That's fine.
Mom.
I think for me, I remember when I was 18 and I had no confidence, believe it or not, something lower than what my confidence is now. But I remember looking into schools and thinking, like, I think I want to go out of state. I want to go to either like Arizona or Boston. And at the time I was debating whether to do like an art degree or something in history. And so I also contemplated like maybe going to like the school in Philadelphia. It was like an all women's like institute for art, like visual arts. But the idea of leaving behind like my boyfriend at the time and my family just scared me. And because like my dad would always tell me all these like horror stories of like what it was like for him to go out and go up north for school, which, I mean, he just went upstate. He didn't like leave, but it was still just as like isolating because I know he would tell us about like, you know, money, all these things, because, you know, you're still a kid when you graduate high school and going out there into the world. Like every decision you make can be life-changing. And I thought, like, could I really do this? I'm afraid. And I was just getting familiar with like the world as I was moving out of that, you know, that next phase of my life. And then I decided not to, and I didn't apply to any schools except the one here in the Valley. So I got accepted. Obviously not through ACT scores though, because yikes, I was really bad. But I had enough on my resume, so to say. So, yeah. And I remember at the time when I was in college, that was me looking back to like what could have been, me holding back where I could be at that moment. And now I don't think about that. Now I just think about like the mental stability of being happy. But back then it was like, I am not being adventurous enough. Like, I'm just here sitting comfortable, and for what? And for 2 years, like I didn't make any friends. I didn't do any social outings of the sort. So, and then I got very disconnected with my family for reasons, and it was hard. It was really hard. And I think I just got into that, just in that mentality of like, you're on your own. It's not that like I didn't talk it out to my parents, but it was just understanding very early on that like, it's just me, honestly. They can only do so much. And that was hard to accept. But now I've accepted it.
I want to talk about, before the phone call interrupted me, I was trying to explain like what I've built here at home, right? But I want to talk about my name, because my name is not my name.
Oh yeah, guys.
But not a lot of, well,
Dun, dun, dun.
not that not a lot of people know that, but like,
But
I
everybody
feel like
who
the
messages
people,
me, they're like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I like Polly and this and that. I'm just like,
okay, and I'm not gonna say my
surprise.
name, but like, let me explain that. We're gonna cut off into audio only for the remainder of the podcast. For our visual people on YouTube, if you want to continue listening, hop on to Spotify or Apple Podcast. We'll leave the links below in the description. So, Polly. My name is not Polly. My name is something else, which